Hey everyone, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Connecting Greeks podcast. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest, a very talented, very beautiful, she's all over the place. She does a lot of stuff. We're going to get to know her a little bit better. Before we bring her on, let me introduce one of my co-hosts, Foti Stamos. Hello, Foti.
Yasu Ari.
How are you?
Good. Another great episode that we've been anticipating.
Absolutely. And speaking of anticipation, our other esteemed co-host, Angelo Tsaroukas, everyone. Hello, Angelo.
Hey, Ari, I love the enthusiasm from Forty. It's another day we're looking so forward.
I think we said this before, but he's like the droopy dog of the group here.
Forty's like, yes, I'm so excited about today's episode. Way to go. Let's go, Forty. Hey, Ari.
Good.
So Angelo, we have an awesome guest today.
Yes.
I'm going to hand it over to you to bring her on.
Yeah, I mean, she's a singer-songwriter, originally comes from Cyprus, which is very near. I've never been, but I'm going to go. And she's from Atlanta, Georgia, home of Coca-Cola, home of Athens Pizza, and now the home of Olympia Papageorgiou. Welcome to Connecting Greeks, Olympia.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me on. That was a great introduction.
Yeah, it takes three of us to get to this thing. It's kind of a collaborative effort. Now, I'm going to ask you a question right off the top, because this is something I always ask somebody from Cyprus. So in Greek, it's called karpouzi, but in Cyprus, it's called patika.
Yes, patika.
Patika. So, Ari Forti, did you know that?
No,
I had no idea.
So karpouzi in Cyprus is patika.
Yep.
How did that happen?
I know, it's cool. So because a friend of mine said, "Do you want some patika?" This is in Toronto, and to me, I thought patika was weed. Do you want some patika? I'm like, yeah,
No.
sure. I'll have some patika, and they brought out karpouzi.
Were you disappointed?
Well, we had it after, but it's funny because when I was in Australia, the Mick halloumi sandwich. Cypriots love halloumi.
That I know.
Love patika. It's a great place. And interestingly enough, tell us, so Olympia, how did you get to America from Cyprus? And you've really built yourself up something really special here. We're excited you're on.
Thank you. Yeah. So my father is Cypriot and my mother's actually American, but we've like Greekanized her. So she speaks Greek and she's Orthodox and she's like very much in the culture. So she just basically wanted to come back to America to be around her family, essentially. So we ended up moving back to the States. They were here first and then they moved there, had me 8 years later, came to America. And we stayed in Florida for, I think, like 5 years. And then we moved to Georgia. So that's like the quick summary of how we got here.
Wow.
So you came at 8 years old.
Yes.
But you speak with no accent.
Yeah. Funny enough, when we came here, I did not speak any English, hardly any at all. And I had to go into one of those, like, I guess, I don't know exactly what they're called, but it's like where all the foreign students go to like learn the language.
ESL.
Yes. And so I remember the teacher there was trying to teach me how to spell my last name because I could not spell it and I couldn't speak very much English. So she would say, the IOU at the end. And she'd be like, I owe you money. And I was like, oh, and I never forgot it after that. I was like, I owe you money. So I never forgot after that. It was quite a transition. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny.
So let me ask you, because it's interesting. We've heard this story before, Olympia. And, it's like we all of us come from immigrant parents. One of your parents, we make the moves. You go to Florida, you come to Atlanta. You got the musical gene in you. Was there any influence in the family or was it self-taught by yourself? Like where was the influence coming in from something like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was surrounded by music growing up.
Wow.
My father is a priest and so he chants. So we were surrounded. Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We were surrounded by obviously Byzantine music and chanting. My mother can sing as well. Her father can sing. Her sister's a professional singer. And then my father's papu, he also knew how to chant because he was a priest. So I was surrounded by music, and I played the piano and sang growing up, and the guitar, a little bit of the guitar.
It's interesting because when you see a lot of American artists like Whitney Houston, and a lot of them, they grew up gospel in the ecclesia. A lot of them were singing. Most of these amazing, I think Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston,
Katy Perry.
A lot of Katy Perry. They all started that influence, and this is a good point. They had that influence when they grew up hearing the music, and especially like in church. Elvis Presley, as a young boy, would go to the Black American churches in Tupelo, Mississippi, and through the window would watch the gospel sing. That's where he got his influence as a singer, the emotion, because when they sing, they have the emotion. Even in our church, when you see the psalty, the chanter, and everybody else, when they're doing all that stuff, you actually, if the church is big and it's got a great acoustic sound to it, you feel it.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's funny that you say that, because it's interesting that you would have that influence, and that makes sense. It makes sense why, because how do they say it? You got to feel. It's not just singing, but you gotta feel it.
Yes. And I mean, that's how I look at music anyway. So when I do get like a track or something, if I don't feel the track, I'm not singing. It's not happening. So I have to really feel it first. Yeah.
I just want to say on that note, I made a mistake of listening to your track Salud right before this, and I felt that. I was grooving. I was like, this is good. This is like really good. Not just because we're having you on the show, but that I would listen to that, and I'm going to listen to it going forward.
Thank you.
Very nice track. Like I like you got it. You got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I felt the same way when I listened to it. I remember with that particular single, I was sitting in the car with my producer, and my producer was like, I have this track I want to show you, and I anticipate you're not going to like it. And I was like, okay. But I'm very open. So he played it, and I screamed. I got so excited, and I was like, what is this? I was like, I need that. And he was like, you like it? And I was like, yes, this is great. And so from then on, I was attached to that record, and we started writing on it. Yeah.
That's really cool. So you, why don't you tell? So you grew up surrounded by music, like you said. Mm-hmm. So how did you know that it was going to go from just something that you enjoy to something that you could make like a career, or make like a very, very big part of your life? Like, what was that tipping point for you?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's an awesome question. So I was always surrounded by it, like we said. And so I always sang. I remember my mom told me when I was like 3 in Cyprus running around, I knew the American Christmas songs, like the English ones, and I would sing Jingle Bells all day long. And so, so I've been singing since I was very little. And when I came to America, I started joining like chorus and performing arts kinds of things in school, in the public schools and the private schools, like all of those things that were available to me, I started doing. So I, again, was immersed in it just by being in school and then being at home. So I was getting like a double whammy of music all the time, but I didn't know I was going to get to a point where I could record. That was a dream. I remember when I was, a teenager, and I was like, wow, like how cool would it be to like be on iTunes? Like what a magical place to have your name. I was so excited about that.
See, that shows a generational difference. It shows that you're young and we're old, because for us, I think it was like singing in a hairbrush and wishing we were on like
MTV.
American Bandstand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to go so far back as like Ed Sullivan, because we're not that old, but like MTV and stuff like that. And for your generation, it's like iTunes, YouTube, and all these like Spotify and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I know. Wow. You can definitely see the like gap, but it's not that bad. But yeah, I was so excited about that idea. I was like, wow, like what a magical place to be, to have my name in iTunes, and I just thought that would be so cool. I never thought it was going to happen. I just sang because I enjoyed singing. So I would sing like for the Greek school program on Greek Independence Day, I would sing like a song or two, something small. I would do, sometimes I would do weddings, just like simple little things. I would do one or two songs, nothing crazy. And I just kept doing that. And when I hit high school, I met a friend who was like, have you ever recorded? And I was like, no, like, what is that? You know what I mean? And he was like, well, come on by. I have a little like in-home studio and like, let's see what happens. I was like, okay. So I think I brought a couple of my friends with me, so I wouldn't go alone. So I showed up and he had this little microphone set up in his home, and I sang my first cover, which was Fever, the Michael Bublé version of Fever. And I was 17. And I still have that recording of when I was 17. It's one of my favorite songs to sing. And I sang it and I released it on YouTube. And I was like, I never want to stop doing this ever. I was like, this is amazing. So from then on, I continued in that realm. But when I got to college, I stopped. I slowed down because I didn't have access anymore. And like, you grow up and, people change, they move around. You just don't have access to things you did maybe 3 years ago. So I slowed down. I didn't really get to like record, but I kept performing. And then one day when I was in the library of my college, this was like my junior year of college, I believe. I had a friend who was there with me and this other guy comes up and he's like, hey, Olympia, he owns an independent label and he's looking for a singer. Oh, and wow. I was like, in Atlanta, there's a lot of shady characters. Like you hear stuff like that all the time where it's like, hey, I have a studio. You want to come on by? So I never did that. You know what I mean?
I have a windowless van. You could come check out.
Yeah. Like, come on in. And I was like, no. So like, I just didn't buy it, but because it was my friend and he was very close to me, I believed him. I was like, okay. I was like, fine. I kind of was like, but whatever. So I gave him a little business card because I literally printed business cards that have my name and then I sang on them.
You got to do it. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I had to go all the way. So I gave him my business card and he was like, oh, wow. Okay. Let me call you whenever I need you. I was like, all right, whatever that means. I didn't think anything was going to come from it. And then a few months later, he called me and he was like, hey, we are recording the first single that we want to release as like a collective under this label that I'm running. Are you interested? Here's your part. He like sent me a little voice memo of him singing my part. And he was like, are you interested? It's on Thursday from like 7 or 6 to 10 or something. And I was like, okay. So I asked my parents and I was like, is everyone comfortable? Like, are we all okay? I'm going to go to the studio. And they were like, yeah, okay. Like bring somebody with you. Let us know when you get there. All the parent things that you're supposed to do. And so I showed up and I recorded the first little part that I ever did in a professional studio like that. And I never left the label. I stuck with them for a couple of years and I was signed in 2019 with them. And now I help to actually co-run it. So, wow. Yeah.
I admire, Olympia, what you just said. You said, I checked. It's amazing the instincts you have. You're very brilliant, observant. You're a singer, but you also know that it's a douchebag business. Hollywood, music, comedy, acting, it is. But I can see how you were raised so right. Your instincts are there. And I'll attest this to being a Greek thing, because it's sort of like, okay, take somebody with you, because it's ingrained in us. And it doesn't matter what you do. I've had the same situations where somebody will say something about doing a show, and I'm like, okay, who's going to be there? Like, where is it? And you're not scared to ask questions. And for people listening to this podcast later, you hit two things in the head, and that's why you're going to be successful. You took a gig anywhere you wanted. You said you sang at school, you sang at weddings. Because everybody asks me, how do you get better at something? You keep doing it. And I said, it doesn't matter where. It doesn't be a comedy club, or it could be a big hall. It could be a rock club. It could be a cruise ship. You keep doing it. The more you do it, the better you get. And I think sometimes people see somebody do something so well, and they think, well, oh yeah, well, I mean, I can do that. It's easy. Well, go do it. And they don't realize the hours that you put into something. and I admire that, but I admire your instincts, because I've heard the horror stories, especially in the music business.
Oh yeah.
You get a pretty young female, and then they're here in LA. You can see it in documentaries. Yeah. They're in the studio. It's getting late. You want a couple of uppers. You want a couple of drinks. Before you know it, they've been in the studio for 3 or 4 days, and then you're taking off it's not even about singing anymore.
Right.
So but it's a good point. But I like the fact that you're not scared to take any gig, and that's why you are where you are right now, and you're going to keep doing that, because that's the secret. Everybody looks for a bottled formula, right, guys? They want, oh, you do this, you do that. Yeah, you got to make contacts. You got to have talent, but you got to have perseverance. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You feel that way, Olympia?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that was the thing. It was like, I slowed down, but I kept doing it. I wasn't quite recording, but I was like, I really love this. So I'm going to just keep going. You know what I mean? I was just going to keep going.
That's a point I wanted to bring up. And Angelo and Olympia, if you guys agree with this, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep practicing. You get better and better. But a lot of people don't do it because this isn't their true passion. But the people who stick through, persevere, it's because it's their passion. And I think you need the passion in order to stick through, in order to persevere, in order to get better, in order to get to a next level. And without that passion, it's just a job. And, everybody knows what it's like to just have a job where you're just phoning it in and taking a paycheck. No, this is not like that. This is something different that that's
you got to be, and I think to like add to that point, if I always say to people, if you're in this to like become famous, you're going to be burned out so quickly. Like, just don't do it, because that should not be your goal. I mean, I think for every artist, every person in the entertainment industry, the goal is to get to a place where you can, have some income coming in from your passion, right? Like that's the goal. But if your goal is purely just fame and notoriety, it's just, that's not why you do what you do here. That's not fair for yourself or for anyone else. Yeah.
100%. Olympia, I was in Canada doing the show, and I have that cousin who's a little bit jealous. They have like kids. Anybody can do that. What you do on stage, anybody can do it. So one night at the club, it's a full house, about 300 people, and he's sitting there. In the middle of my show, I stopped it. I go, hey, this is my cousin Spiro. He said that what I do is so simple, a monkey can do it. So why don't we get the crowd? I got the crowd clapping. Well, Spiro, why don't you come up? Why don't you come up and do 2-3 minutes for us? Because it's so easy to do it. Okay, like you staring like a deer looking at a bus on a highway. Oh, come on, buddy, come on. And I did this, somebody just sitting there like this in the chair. He didn't know what to do. And I said to him, then he goes to me after, that wasn't fair what you did. I go, that was meant for you to shut up, because I'm sick and tired of you telling me what I'm doing is so easy. I'm not saying some people have a natural gift, but at the same time, I'm thinking in the middle of so what I did, guys, in the middle of the show, I stopped and I go, Spiro, why don't you come up? 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. Here, the crowd, I got the crowd clapping. Come on, we're clapping. Bring him on. Here's my cousin Spiro. He thinks what I do, and I'll get off the stage. We'll give him the stage for 2 minutes. He froze. He just froze. So it's so weird that you have that, but you're right. It's like you do it as a passion. I saw this documentary recently on Sheryl Crow, who I'm a big fan of. And she started off as a backup singer for Michael Jackson, which I didn't know. And then she said she just liked doing it. And
she was a music teacher as well.
Right. And she just, I can see the similarities with the successful singers or performers, because it's like, you just take the gigs, do it. They like, obviously what you recorded the first time on the amateur stuff, they liked it. They said, come back and let's just lay this down perfectly, and that's the thing. And yes, you do need contacts and you do need lucky breaks for sure. That's like anything you do.
Yeah, that helps.
That's how you got kind of into it more, like professionally in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after college? You're like, you have a degree now. So,
Well, yeah.
So what's your path here?
So, interestingly enough, and I don't know if we ever talked about this, but after college, it was always something I wanted to do. There were two things in my life that I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue my doctorate, and I wanted to pursue music. And that is what I am doing. So I am in a doctoral program, a 5-year doctoral program, pursuing a degree in clinical psychology. And I'm also singing. so I still do both.
So you could potentially help Foti with all his problems and then entertain him as well.
Right.
All of us. She's doing a case study on us right now. She's looking at all of us right now. Are you going, well, these guys clearly have certain social dysfunctions.
No.
We'll get your analysis after the show, please.
Okay, I'll write something up for you.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think it's great. And, I think you can see the connection between that and music.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who have emotional issues or on the spectrum, it's been proven that music helps them with their therapy.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of times if I'm in a bad mood, I go on Siri and I'll say, play something like the Eagles or play, Anavisi or play whatever, it's put it on and then I hear the music. And after a while, like whatever was bothering me kind of goes away. I think a lot of people, music is something personal.
Mm.
Everybody likes what they like. And then if you know that what you did helped somebody in that day, then you did your job.
Yep. I mean, music is incredibly powerful. And that's the special thing about it, is that it affects certain parts of the brain. And I mean, we've seen videos, of individuals who are much older, who have like Alzheimer's or dementia or something, and they can't remember things, but they can remember a melody and they can remember words from a song, and that's amazing. So interesting. Yeah. People always ask like, oh, why didn't you go to school for music? Because I do have a passion for education as well. And I always say, I didn't want to make it super technical. I wanted to just enjoy it, because I just wanted to enjoy it and not make it so technical and like work. You know what I mean? So I decided, let me continue on with my passion of psychology as well, because I enjoy therapy and I think it's really important. And so I decided to continue, and luckily so far I've been able to do both. So God willing, I can continue doing both, but I have a couple years left before I'm officially like a Dr. Olympia, which sounds silly to me.
That's fantastic.
I love the fact that you have your name, your Greek, your big fat Greek name.
There's a story about that.
Let's hear it.
So story time. So when I joined the team at the label, we decided to release my music under just Olympia. But when we did that, there's another artist, I think in Australia, named Olympia. And we didn't know that at the time. And at the time, the distribution companies didn't have a way to like separate your profile from some other musician's profile. So my stuff came up under her profile, which is terrifying. So we immediately took it down, because that's a huge risk and you don't want to do that. So we took it down. Now you can separate it, but at the time we couldn't. So we immediately took it down, and everybody was like, well, you should really choose like a stage name. And I was like, no. And they were like, well, I mean, Olympia Papageorgiou is really long. And I was like, okay, I don't care. I was like, I want to use my full name. Like, I think if I'm going to keep my name in any way possible, it would be digitally. So I was like, no, I want my Greek name. I was like, I'm going to keep it. And I did have a bit of an argument with the team at the time, but they were like, okay, like you're so passionate about this and you're passionate about obviously being Greek and your music. Fine, you can keep your name, like just keep it. So I kept it, because I was like, no, I want to represent where I come from. I want to keep my last name. I didn't want to do Olympia Papageorgiou as my stage name. I'm not like a rapper. I don't know. Right. I was like, what is that? I'm not doing hip hop necessarily. So I was like, no, I want something else.
A national pizza chain.
Right. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so they all supported it in the end. They were like, okay, you know what? Because they're also cultural, they come from different backgrounds, and they were like, okay, we understand that, go for it, like do it. And I was like, cool. So when I saw my full name on Apple Music and iTunes and Spotify, I was so emotional, because I was like, look,
Ah.
It says Papageorgiou, thank you.
I applaud that. I applaud it. And I'll tell you why I applaud it. Because we need more artists. I've heard the same thing when I first moved to Hollywood, that Sarukas was too difficult. And I said, I'm not changing my name. A Jewish comic named Larry Horowitz, who I admired, said, don't change your name, make fun of it if you're a comic. And he goes, and the problem is a lot of people did change their names, a lot didn't. Melina Kanakaridis didn't, Maria Menounos didn't, even Zach Galifianakis. And they say, oh, well, they're Greek. So what's wrong with that? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I applaud you for keeping your name, because that, through art and everything, that's how any culture sustains itself. If we bastardize it and remove it, just because some people can't pronounce it, they still screw up my name. Papageorgiou is not bad. Galos, Stamos, try Tsarukas, Soft hard C, Chicharachis, Chichachakis. And I don't care. I go up there and go, the Malakas. He doesn't even know how to say my name. And it's like that. But I applaud you. For doing that. You stuck to your guns and said, no, that's my name. That's how I want people to remember me by. And so you should. I really, I think you're fucking awesome is what I think. I'm watching you and I'm like, this girl's got her shit together. I saw your stuff was great. And the fact that you're maintaining it, because as a whole in the world, and I saw this more even in Australia, we're not a big population, guys. In 7.3 billion people, we're all worldwide with 25 million. Although we have a big impact, that's another reason for even this podcast. When the guys called me, Connecting Greeks, we're showcasing Greek artists, authors, professionals, people of interest from all around the world. And that's the whole idea, is to keep it going. And we've been lucky enough to have great guests like yourself. And, and the fact that you're telling me I didn't change my name, that's it. For me, you're superstar now, because that's exactly what you need to do. Because nobody else is changing their names now. Why do we got to change our names? Now it's not in fashion. Now they want you to keep your name.
Yeah. Interestingly enough.
Well, I got to make a point too, that to our parents' generation, for whatever reasons, some of them did change the names just so that they would have easier time getting through society.
Right.
That's what they say. Yes, but what Angelo's saying, I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah,
I think it's so respectable. I think you are sacrificing, like, I don't know how to word it, but like, your progress forward would probably be easier with an easier name or a catchy name. And you're sacrificing, how far you could go because of what you believe in and what's in your heart. And hopefully that is something that will also boost you, because it's so respectable, especially to us and our culture. And I think to non-Greeks who just hear the story of like, this is my name, that I'm a proud Greek, I'm a proud Cypriot, I don't want to change it. That's such a respectable story to tell. And, way in the future, when you're receiving all your Grammys and you're counseling Angelo and Fauci with their mental illnesses, you'll be able to tell your grandkids, like, I never changed, I stuck to my guns, I'm proud of who I am. And you've made something of yourself by sticking to your guns. And that's going to be a great story. And you're going to come back on Connecting Greeks to tell us.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really think it's important.
As Dr. Papageorgiou.
God willing.
She's not changing her name for her musical career, but she is going to change it when she's a doctor. It's going to be Dr. Papa G.
It'll be on the degree in my room. Dr. Papa G. That is so funny.
It's funny because in the days of migration from Greece and Cyprus, and you're right, Forty, they had to change.
Yeah.
But now they encourage you not to. They want you to be who you are. So this is a good example, especially for Greek Cypriot artists and any in our culture, to stay to who you are. I mean, because they look at me and they go, "Why don't you change your name?" No, I'm not changing it. You know what I mean? too many people are our forefathers, everybody. I go, and now they're like, oh, it's Angelo. Okay, they always think I'm Italian anyway, but at the same time, I think it's so important that you put that out there. It's also an example for everybody else. There's a lot of art, and you're right. I think you said it right, Olympia. Like, we're so diverse now in America. Everybody's from somewhere now. It's not just Americans. It's the whole diversity of the whole thing. So
yes,
bravo.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was absolutely very important to me to do that. And so luckily I was able to do that. And my team ended up being very supportive of it. And they're like, no, you're right. You should do that.
It's 100%. We're behind you in that decision 100%.
Thank you.
So, okay. So that's the status of where you got to. So is there anything going on right now that you're excited about that you could tell us?
Yeah. So I released a new single, No Titles, in November, actually. It's still a new single. I kind of run my own music a little differently, where I don't release more than a couple of songs a year or one song a year, like one major project a year. It's a labor of love and it takes a lot of energy out of me. And also because I'm a full-time student in a doctoral program, doing like literally clinical hours during the week, treating clients and patients. Like I have limited time. So I have to space everything out properly so that I can accomplish both of my goals. And I've been blessed to be able to do that. And so after I released that song, we all said it needs a visual, like you got to do a music video. So a couple of weeks ago, we shot a music video for No Titles. It was a 10-hour shoot day. We had about 20 people on set. We rented out a venue in Atlanta, got everybody together, fed everyone. Like
Angelo, Foti, and myself did not get an invite, and I don't even know why. Like, what's going on here? Next video, we're coming.
Okay. I will send you a personal invite. So that's what we're excited about right now. It's in the middle of being edited and kind of put together by our videographer who is there on set with us. So that's the biggest thing happening. In the meantime, in the background, I have 2 songs that are rotating in retail stores around the country, including Canada. So SALUD is one of them. And No Titles. And they're both being played in over 25,000 locations around the country and Canada, in Subway, Walmart, all kinds of different places. Wow. Nice. Yeah, which is really, really cool. Very, very happy about that. So that's been exciting.
Could I just say something that's very interesting? You just kind of triggered my memory. Way back 100 years ago, in high school, I used to work at the Gap.
Okay.
And I used to hear all this music playing in the Gap. And I used to tell everybody, I was like, this is great music, but I never hear it anywhere. I only hear it at the Gap. And then like one of the managers or somebody like explained to me, there's this whole like industry of like a really in-depth industry of like how they choose music for like these big retail locations. And it's like big names and big artists. And sometimes it's not something that you're going to hear on the radio, but it's like a very popular whatever song. And I always thought that was fascinating. And what you just said like made me remember.
That's
like,
so cool.
It's like, yeah, it's a really cool thing. There's like a whole industry. It's not just about like what's on top 40 radio. It's like there's so much more going on.
But that's so cool that you had an explanation like that that's so cool that they told you. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah, there are companies that communicate with each other between, they're kind of the liaison between the artist and the retail store, that kind of communicate about how to tag songs, like depending on how they sound. Yeah. And so those stores kind of choose like the environment they want in the store or something. And then that song can be added to that particular like playlist of that store. So that's at least how I understand it. So I was lucky that No Titles and SALUD were chosen to do that. And SALUD is by far my biggest single so far. So I'm glad that you liked it.
I was going to say, if I'm shopping and I hear SALUD, like I'm buying everything because I'm just like in the zone. So it's working for you. If you need a testimonial, just call me and I'll give them that.
Yeah, it's so funny. I just received a message, I think it was last week, from somebody I know. He actually runs a radio station, an independent radio station that also plays SALUD and No Titles. And he messaged me. And he was like, hey, I was at the bank and SALUD was playing at my bank. And I was like, what? And he sent me the video. And I always get so pumped about those moments. Like there's special moments. And I really try to celebrate all those little moments.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Very cool.
Okay, so we got very brief.
We know you now. We know you.
Brief like introduction to Olympia. So why don't we jump into Forty's these?
Hold on, Ari. This is like the weirdest dating site I've ever been on. We got to know you better. Like what?
Well, this is what we do. We try to get to know people. We got to try to get to know them and introduce them. And if people don't know you, they get to know you. So it's very cool. But not to scare you, but now we're gonna ask you some off the cuff, off the top of your head questions.
Okay.
And Forty is gonna take this over, and then after that, Angela's gonna have a final question, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So let's turn it over to Forty.
I'm laughing because not to scare you, Olympia, but we're gonna ask you questions.
Do you take Bachelor number 1, number 2, or number 3?
Financial statements, goal.
That's classic of Greeks to ask how much you make before you get involved with somebody.
Everything I
Don't
do.
ask that.
Everything I do, my mother-in-law, I was like, no, I really don't like money. I don't want to make money. Nothing I do makes money.
Oh, you introduced to your new friend. Oh, he's a nice guy. How much money does he make?
That's so good. Have you been to a Greek wedding? If you're single at a Greek wedding, I've seen it. For females, if you're single at a Greek wedding, they go around, they tell you what the family's worth. Big business. Like they give you financial statements.
That's old school, man.
And they shop you around the tables.
Old school. Yeah, I love being Greek.
But old school, like, that was last week. They still do it.
I'm saying that's like the old school mentality of like we're gonna like it's like the dowry and like all this like old school stuff, but they still do it, which I love. I'm never gonna.
It's hilarious.
I love it.
We'll do segments and bring people on and ask them how much they're worth.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. All right.
But anyways,
give her some good questions here.
Let's go. Let's kind of shift away from music to getting to know Olympia with these 3 questions. Cypriot and Greek, right? You've had a combination of these 2 cultures. We always like to ask our guests your favorite and least favorite, possibly Greek or Cypriot food.
Oh my. let me think.
Be diplomatic. Don't cut out your Cypriot roots. Don't cut out the Greeks.
Okay. One thing I used to love but no longer like, because I have lost a taste for it as I've gotten older.
Oh.
Is Zalatina.
Wait, what?
You know what that is? Okay.
Zalatina.
I'm pretty sure it's called Zalatina. I would be so embarrassed if it's not, but I'm pretty sure it is. It is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like all of the things that are left over of the animal in like a fat jello.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
There is another word for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Pikti. Pikti is, we call it pikti.
Pikti. Okay.
Well, it's like this gelatin looking.
It's like, yes.
I've seen it.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
I really thought I've heard it all doing like 100+ episodes. You just gave me something new. I've never heard this before.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. You guys, I'd be really embarrassed if it's not called.
Well, I mean, Forty knew. I'm not.
Well, I've been around it when I was younger, and it grossed me out as a kid because it was like this blob in the refrigerator that looked like Jello, clear.
It is
Jello,
a blob. Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a clear, cloudy Jello of all the things left over from the animals.
Wait, so you used to like this?
I used to love it.
And then what happened?
You spread it on like toast or bread.
Well, I would just eat it. I didn't. When I was little, see, when you go into your ya's kitchen and she's like, "FIS, like, did you eat? Like, feliz fajito?" And I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm down, like anytime.
So was this a cognitive thing where when you understood what it was, you stopped liking it, or was it just?
Question. I think it's both. I think when I moved to the States And after I didn't eat it normally, like regularly anymore. And I lost the taste for it because it has a very acquired taste. It's super acquired taste. And so I stopped eating it. And I remember there was one person in Florida who used to make it. And I was like, it's been a few years. So I was like, let me try it. And I was like, immediately, no, absolutely not. I can't do this anymore.
After she tried a Big Mac, she's like, forget this jalapeno stuff.
That's right.
She's in America now, baby.
That's right. I was like, cheeseburgers. Like
that is awesome answer, because like I said, I thought I heard it all. I thought I knew it all. This is new to me, and that's great. I mean, it makes sense that you don't like it anymore, because it sounds like something that most people wouldn't like.
I'm sure dietitians and nutritionists would not recommend this dish.
Probably like Western society would be like, no, don't do that. But I ate it every week. I swear, it was all the time. Awesome. It was continuous. It was like, I'm pretty sure it's called salad. I need to
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I need to check it, but I'm pretty sure that's what we called it. And I mean, I would eat like keftedes and like gupes, like whatever. But
what's your favorite now, currently? Like, what would you like to go eat? Like, if you could go right now.
Like right now, cupes, like for sure. Okay. With lemoni. Oh my gosh. I'm a very happy girl.
Wow. Yeah. I love it.
I would love that. Yeah.
All right, cool. 14.
Next question, Olympia.
Yes.
Did we get her least favorite food?
Yeah. Zalatina was my least favorite. It was my favorite. And we changed.
Favorite, yes. Now it's the least favorite.
They qualified as the least favorite. Qualified as the least favorite. Now you mentioned that your dad a priest and so forth, where we also, as growing up with Greek parents, we were always subject to these insane, crazy sayings. Were there any sayings growing up that still have been embedded and drilled in your head that you might continue to live with?
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind, I cannot say it to you, because it is the most Cypriot saying, where it's even
and then translate it.
Oh no, I can't even say it. Like, I'm talking about like my tongue will not be, I can't say it. It is such a difficult saying. And my baba, even my father sometimes has trouble saying it. It's like from the Choreo, like it's a very difficult thing to say.
Can we get him on the phone?
We're gonna have a follow-up segment with your dad.
I know. I really need to should I call him and ask him? I don't know if he could say it though. But I mean, I remember him saying it whenever we wanted to giggle, whenever he wanted to make us laugh, he would say it, because it is so difficult to say and it sounds ridiculous, but I love it. And I feel bad that I can't say it to you. So it'll be a mystery.
What about what will be the translation of that saying? Do you remember?
God. I think it was about a cow.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
I know what it is. Ama Yelada de Beni Stogala. Something.
No, it's so, listen.
I made it up.
Okay.
Do we have time? Guys, do we have 1 minute? Maybe she can call her dad and you can ask her.
Do you want me to call him?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it.
Anything goes on the show.
Okay, let's see. First of all, he's upstairs.
Oh, perfect.
Let me text him right now.
That's so funny.
This is so funny.
This is a first for Connecting Greeks right here. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You got to call your Lifeline or your whatever.
Let's see if he's okay with it though. He may not want to do it.
Yeah, he's gonna be like,
fine.
He's gonna see us and be like, "What the hell are you doing over here?"
Maybe as we wait for his response, I have my last question for you.
Okay.
Is again, as Greeks, we're very dramatic. I'm sure as Cypriots as well. We live by a lot of superstition. Is there any superstition that you live by?
Okay.
Anything you still believe, or anything you still do? Any
rituals or ceremony?
That's such a great question. Let me say.
Often doing things right.
Well, let me say this: having a father as a priest, lots of things have been corrected growing up. And I remember even some traditions growing up in Cyprus, he had to correct some things because people kind of got sucked into those superstitions.
Oh, give us some examples.
Okay. For example, For example, there's like two. One is like really religious. But one that he would say is like, you should not have the evil eye. Mm-hmm. That should be removed from your home. You shouldn't have that. There's nothing stronger than the sabro. So you need to have your sabro with you because that's what's going to protect you, not the evil eye, because of the history of it. And he's a history buff. So he has a PhD in early Christian history. He understands it all. So he would correct that.
Like legit. He knows. Yeah.
So he would correct us. There would be some, I don't actually even want to talk about this particular one, but there are some traditions in the church too, that he would be like, no, that's not correct. Like for women in particular, if you're like picking up what I'm putting down, like he would be like, no, that's not correct. You can still take communion. You can still enter the church. Like
we need to have a whole separate podcast about this.
That'd be different. Yes.
This is the stuff I love to talk about.
Yeah. He growing up, to give my father a lot of credit, and because this combines with the whole music life. So growing up, he was always open to answering all of our questions. So he would stay up with me until 2 a.m. answering every question that I had. And if he didn't have an answer, he would simply say, I don't actually know that right now. Let me think about it. I'm not sure what the Orthodox perspective would be on that particular thing right now. Let me think about it. And he would wait, but most of the time there was an answer. And he encouraged questioning. He encouraged questions. He encouraged being the intellectual, that you're challenging things and you're not following things blindly. He encouraged that growing up. Well, and yeah.
That's great, not to cut you off, because we've been subject, at least in my circle of family, that you don't question the Orthodox faith.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
But Olympia, let me ask you, would you hear sayings like Tamat Yesu de Katesara or Prosexe, like, I mean, stuff like that? Those are like more phrases. I wouldn't say they're more superstitions.
Well, don't, like go in the same door you came out, or go out the same door you came in, or, stuff like that was always like part of like, our.
Yeah, but Ari's right. Ari's right. We have the Olympia to do a case study on the three of us.
And I was also going to say, like, all these other things we've heard from before, or a bunch of dumbasses. We're speaking to intellectuals here, which are straightening us out.
Well, okay, so I do not remember growing up and hearing things like that. To be totally honest.
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
not specifically. If there was something, I think it was quickly corrected. It was quickly corrected usually from my father. Yeah. So
I mean, very respectable. I used to be very religious because I'm in a Greek household. In my older years, I tended to kind of stray a little bit away because of questions. But I think it's because I could never speak to somebody who would actually have a conversation. It would always be like, and it would always be shut down. And that's something that's kind of driven me away. I bet you, if I had an influence like somebody like your dad, it would be a totally different story with me now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that was important. I remember when we traveled, I know we're going off on a different conversation, but I remember when we traveled to Israel many, many years ago. Not that I'm like crazy old, but years ago. And I had so many questions. I was like, Baba, how do we know this happened here? How do we know this happened here? Like, and I was 16 and I was, I was just bothering him so much. And I remember he looked at me while we were jumping on the bus, it was a tour bus. And he was like, Olympia, you are such an intellectual. And I started to cry because I thought it was a bad thing. And so I started to cry. He's like, why are you crying? And I was like, you called me an intellectual. I was like, I don't know what that means. And he's like, no, that's a good thing. It means you're asking the right questions to get answers. And he was like, that's okay, Olympia. I'm like, you can ask questions. And I was like, oh, okay. So how do we know this is you? And I just jumped right back in.
The fact that he's a priest and he's saying this is just amazing to me.
Thank you.
That's good.
I love your dad now.
Thank you. He's very educated. And very passionate about what he does. And he just never discouraged it. And I mean, we all questioned, like all of us in the family were like, well, what does this mean? Why do we do this? How do we understand this? And society is saying this, what's this part?
Right.
You know what I mean? And he would say, okay, let's talk about that change in society and maybe where that came from and how that's connected to us as Orthodox people living in this world. And I can understand why somebody, without getting answers, why you would be discouraged. You know, like I get that.
Yeah.
And I was just really blessed that I had a person who was willing to answer my questions and willing to like really give me answers that made sense to me. And when he wasn't sure, he thought about it. And I always appreciated that. And my mom is the same way.
That's great.
So, yeah,
That's
I'm very
beautiful.
blessed. I'm very, very blessed with them.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm glad we actually touched this subject.
I know. I was like, this is so great. This
Thank
is
you.
like some of the best segments we've had. But speaking of these segments, we're gonna kind of wrap it up with Angelo asking you something crazy, something inspirational, something funny, something embarrassing, something weird. Angelo.
Yeah. So I want to ask Olympia because, you know, we're all humans and things happen. You're in the singing business. We're in the comedy business, podcast business. What's something crazy that's happened to you that you didn't understand at the time, and then you realize after, like something fun story? What would it be?
Okay, I have two stories, if that's okay.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first story is about SALUD. So when I first heard SALUD, as you know, I really loved it. And I was like, I'm going to sing on that song. That's my song. And so my producer was like, great, let's go do it. So we went to a studio and I felt very weird at the studio. I didn't like the way my vocals were being recorded. I didn't like how they sounded on the record. I was just unhappy, but I was like, maybe it'll be okay. I get the recording back. And to me, it was horrible. It was like the worst recording I'd ever heard. And I was like, I really questioned if I should continue singing. That's how bad it was to me. I was very upset. And so I kind of brought my team together, and of course I'm losing it. I'm crying. I'm like, should I stop singing? Do I even deserve to sing? Do I deserve to do this? Like, this record sounds horrible. And it's one of my favorite tracks I've ever heard. I don't think I should continue. And my team was like, what are you talking about? Like, it was one bad recording. Like, let's see what we can do. So we sat here actually, and we started talking about what we could do. I realized that the song was just not in my key. And that's why it didn't sound right to me. And I changed the key. And I learned from that little moment that I can manipulate my songs more than I thought I could. And it's okay to change it to work in your key, to work for you, not for you to work for it. So I changed the key, and we booked another session with my favorite recording engineer. And he and I, like, we just smashed it out. We were done. Like, he was like, you got it. You recorded it. It's done. And it was amazing. And I just remember the feeling of defeat and anger and sadness prior to that. And then how all of that just lifted off of me from simply understanding my voice, from simply understanding where does it fit best. And that for me was a really powerful moment, because I questioned just ending like my career in singing, because I really disliked what I heard, and it was very embarrassing. And even after that, it wasn't smooth sailing though. We almost didn't release it because we couldn't get somebody to mix the record properly. So we kept sending it out. No one could mix my vocals properly. No one could mix the sounds properly. Right. And I was like, did we really come this far for the song not to come out? Like, no way. And finally, we found someone who could mix it. They had the right like information in their computer, the right software to do it. And he mixed it, and it was beautiful. And I released it, and it became my biggest song. And it was all of that hard work was so worth it. It was so worth it. So that was a really special time.
I think this story is going to be very helpful to people starting out, because maybe they're questioning exactly how you questioned, and now they'll know that they have to stick to it, or they have to, it's not over when you think it's over. So,
yeah, and I thought it was.
You're probably inspiring many, many people starting out.
I know
so. Fatih is probably inspired. His singing career didn't quite take off yet, but.
No, that's why I'm drinking.
And what's
okay,
the other
so
one?
that was.
Yeah. We'll finish with the other one. What was the other one?
Oh, okay. So this is the last story. So this is when I told my dad, my Baba, I was like, Baba, my music is going to be playing in Subway. Don't you go to Subway? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, my song, Salud, is going to be playing in Subway. And he was like, oh. And I was like, well, what if you're getting a sandwich? What if you heard it? What would you do? And he goes, I would say, wow, that is my daughter. And it was so cute. It was so cute. And both of my parents, because I know, sometimes I remember I was asked in a podcast once, like, some parents don't support like the entertainment industry. And I can say that my family has been very supportive because I'm so passionate about it. And so it was amazing, awesome, especially a priest.
Yeah.
Well, and I try to like respect what he does in my music in the sense that I try not to do anything, too much. Like I really try to respect his position in the community. And so there are lots of people from church that watch my music videos and listen to my songs. And it's just,
you're not going to do like straight up gangster rap. So
probably not. So I do my best to keep within bounds, as much as I can. It's difficult in entertainment. You get pressure, all kinds of things, but I really try my best to do that and to respect both of my parents. And anyway, but yeah, he's so supportive. He's like, oh, he's so excited.
That's awesome. That is amazing. I love hearing these stories. Guys, this was a great interview. If I do say so myself.
So fast.
Yeah,
it did.
We were planning on we're trying to like shorten our podcast, but when we have the flow and we have a great guest like Olympia, it's gonna go and it's gonna just fly by. And I had a great time. I had a great time listening to you. I just want to say on behalf of Angelo and Foti, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We are going to have all your contact information in the notes of the podcast and the video. I want to say thank you so much to Angelo for always being the rock of the group and leading us forward. Thanks to Foti for being, very, very excited and very, very vocal and everything. And thank you again, Olympia. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Olympia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olympia.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Anytime, and we want to have you back. And we want to thank everybody out there for watching and listening. Follow her, check out her music. Whatever you do out there in the interwebs, do it. Follow her, listen to her, see her, everything, because it's worth it. Great music, great person, great stories. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.